Have you heard of the stand-up roller coaster? Chances are you have. The stand-up roller coaster is a roller coaster where you stand up throughout the duration of the ride experience. It offers a unique, hard-to-find experience that some people love and a lot of people hate. Now, the stand-up coaster definitely had its moment, and there were over 20 installations of a stand-up coaster. But the stand-up coaster has been dying out for a couple of years now, even though the stand-up coaster used to be one of the most popular models out there. But to gain a better understanding of why this happened, we have to go back to the beginning. But before that, we do have to acknowledge that the stand-up coaster is not entirely dead. With the creation of the B&M Surf Coaster, it allows the legacy of the stand-up coaster to live on in a much more comfortable ride experience. And this very coaster is the only reason why the stand-up coaster lives on today. So, without further ado, this is the rise and fall, and dare I say rise again, of the stand-up roller coaster. The stand-up roller coaster was first invented in 1982, with the first one being built in 1984. That coaster was called King Cobra and was built at Kings Island. This coaster was manufactured by Togo, and little did they know that they would spark a revolution in the amusement park industry, causing parks and manufacturers alike to want something unique and different. This coaster challenged the traditional way of thinking and building roller coasters. Before then, roller coaster trains were pretty much all the same. You would sit down, be secured with the over-the-shoulder restraint or a lap bar, and you would go and enjoy the ride. But what the stand-up coaster showed the industry is that not all coasters have to be the same. And it proved that sometimes the unique coasters can be some of the most successful out there. And this philosophy changed amusement parks forever. And it ushered in a new era for theme parks everywhere. Gone were the days of old wooden coasters that were all pretty much the same. And it brought a new concept to the amusement park industry. That is, gimmicks. Dive coasters, giga coasters, inverted coaster. These would not exist if the stand-up coaster hadn't been invented. Without the stand-up coaster, the amusement park industry wouldn't have realized that you need to separate yourself and make your coasters unique to stand out. And with the success of King Cobra at Kings Island, parks and manufacturers alike wanted to get in on this trend, making unique, somewhat gimmicky coasters. And there's a good chance that without this, theme parks today would be unrecognizable. Our story begins with a small Japanese manufacturer called Togo. Togo was founded in 1935 and had built a few small coasters throughout its lifetime. But Togo wanted to become a mainstream manufacturer for amusement parks everywhere, and they needed a standout model to do that. So they decided to take a risk and develop the stand-up roller coaster. It was a truly groundbreaking concept, where instead of changing the layout of a ride, you change the trains, thus changing the ride experience. Togo then constructed a prototype and waited for a park to come along and try it out. That park was Kings Island, an up-and-coming park in need of a unique attraction. So Kings Island officials went out to Togo's facility in Japan to test out the prototype. Kings Island loved it, and they purchased the coaster for the 1984 season. The revolution had started. But Togo was not the only manufacturer of stand-up coasters for long, because another upstart company needed a way to break into the industry, and they saw a perfect opportunity. That upstart company was none other than B&M. B&M got their start manufacturing inverted roller coasters, but they needed to expand the amount of different attractions that they were offering. So they jumped on the stand-up coaster trend and made their own version of the stand-up roller coaster. In 1991, shortly after B&M entered the stand-up coaster game, Intamin decided to jump on this great opportunity, creating their first stand-up coaster in 1993. These three manufacturers together created the golden age of the stand-up roller coaster. From 1991 to 1996, Together, these three manufacturers sold 8 stand-up roller coasters, with 3 other being sold in 1997, 98, and 99. But then, something weird happened. After the stand-up coaster's golden age, something very weird occurred. Parks stopped buying stand-up coasters completely, and since 1999, not a single traditional stand-up roller coaster has been built. This was very sudden and very random. This coaster model had been so successful throughout the 90s, but all of a sudden heading into the 21st century, parks simply stopped buying these. And there are a few good reasons why. For starters, the traditional stand-up coaster was starting to become pretty outdated. The stand-up coasters began to get a reputation for being rough and pretty uncomfortable. And from that point on, interest in the stand-up coaster suddenly disappeared. But that's not the only reason why the stand-up coaster suddenly died out. Remember what the purpose of the stand-up coaster was. It was meant to provide a unique and hard-to-find experience. And it was successful and did a very good job of that. And parks manufacturers took notice. And we saw the rise of many other unique coaster models. Manufacturers had even gone as far to create a flying roller coaster. The stand-up coaster lost its reputation as the go-to, unique, super marketable attraction. Because, put quite frankly, there were better options than the stand-up coaster out there. And as I said earlier, as these stand-up coasters aged, they began to become quite rough. But then B&M had a genius idea that effectively killed the traditional stand-up roller coaster. And that would be floorless trains. B&M realized they had a problem on their hand. These old stand-up coasters were starting to get really rough and uncomfortable. So they had a brilliant idea to offer a floorless train, meaning you could still get that unique ride experience, but get rid of the uncomfortable stand-up trains while keeping the same layout. It was a win for B&M and parks alike. It was a lot cheaper than getting a whole nother roller coaster, and parks could now market these newly retrofitted floorless coasters as a brand new roller coaster, even though it had the exact same layout. And the floorless coaster went on to pretty much replace the stand-up coaster. For B&M, for now. Heading into the 2010s, the stand-up coaster continued to not sell, and more stand-up coasters were being converted to floorless roller coasters. And as time went on, most manufacturers simply gave up on the stand-up roller coaster altogether. It seemed impossible to fix on the surface. It had gained a bad reputation, and it was going to be really hard to make it a comfortable ride experience. And by the 2000s, the inventor of the stand-up roller coaster had already gone bankrupt, and it appeared that Intamin had no interest in really manufacturing any more stand-up coasters. But what about B&M? Well, they didn't give up. Their normal stand-up coaster wasn't selling anymore, but they weren't ready to give up. So they went back to the drawing board and created something truly incredible. B&M was not ready to abandon the idea of a stand-up roller coaster. They just knew they had to make it better. So what's the most problematic part about a stand-up roller coaster? Well, it's the trains. So B&M goes and designs new state-of-the-art trains that are fantastic. They're smooth, they're comfortable, but you still get this stand-up element. And they call it the Surf Coaster. Why? Well, these seats let you move up and down based on the forces that you're currently experiencing during the ride. And it kind of feels like you're surfing. And these trains are also themed to look like a surfboard. So this makes the ride experience so much more comfortable, while also adding something super unique to this coaster. But B&M still had to fix another issue: headbanging. Traditional stand-up roller coasters feature over-the-shoulder restraints, and you can easily bang your head into the sides of them if you are not careful. So B&M has the great idea to replace these over-the-shoulder restraints with vest restraints. You can't bang your head. It's pretty much impossible. It helps make the ride experience so much more enjoyable and comfortable for everyone. And vest restraints do help some guests feel even more secure, helping make these trains even better. B&M ended up being able to sell the Surf Coaster to SeaWorld Orlando. They named it Pipeline the Surf Coaster, and it's the coaster I'm showing you right now. It has been received very well by just about everyone, and having ridden it myself, I can tell you it's a really good coaster. And B&M did take a very big risk with this coaster, because it could have been a total disaster, but it wasn't, and it was really successful for SeaWorld Orlando and B&M. And the Surf Coaster is the reason why the essence of the stand-up coaster lives on today. Without the B&M Surf Coaster, the stand-up coaster would have just faded into irrelevance. But with Pipeline the Surf Coaster, and hopefully many more surf coasters to come, we can remember the legacy that the stand-up coaster had on the amusement park industry. And we can remember the rise, the fall, and maybe, just maybe, the rise again of the stand-up roller coaster. If you enjoyed the video and love roller coasters, then drop a like down below and subscribe for more roller coaster content coming your way. And if you want to know why no one has built the RMC Wild Moose yet, then check out the video on your screen right now. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.